Welcome back to the gutter, the Grindhouse gutter. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with the Professor Smoak.
What's up?
And the entire point of the Grindhouse Gutter series here on YouTube is we talk about the exploitation action, just B movie flicks that you would have played back in the drive-ins and grindhouses back in the day. So with all that setting the table for you, Professor, what'd you bring to us this month?
Oh yeah, we're gonna head back to the Grindhouse with a Chop Socky flick. That this time it's going to be a Kung Fu one, and it's a 1978 classic by Shaw Brothers called the Five Deadly Venoms. So yeah, this will be the second time I guess we've dipped our toes in the Shaw Brothers side of things, and this movie is directed by Chang Che, and to connect with another one of our shows that we do here on YouTube, Hammer for in Order. Chang Che would be to Shaw Brothers Studios what Terrence Fisher was to Hammer. Kind of the piece in the whole, you know. You can pretty much count on a good, well-made kung fu film if Chang Che is in the director's seat.
And I would definitely say this one is well made, if nothing else.
Yeah,
I've seen, I probably haven't seen quite as many of these type of flicks as you have, but I've seen a lot, and not many are going to be as well done and as well put together as this one was. I don't think.
yeah. This is top notch. This is like almost like five or six other fairly well-made movies crammed into one excellent film. Because as you said, you've seen plenty enough yourself. You can get some enjoyment out of a kung fu movie as long as it's got good choreography and martial arts. That's really all you need to enjoy the movie. If it's got more things, more boxes it can check, like great cinematography, somebody who knows what they're doing with the plot and knows how to move it along, rather than a lot of times kung fu movies will just be a master, and this one's this one kind of falls into that a little bit too. A master of some kung fu school is getting killed, and the students get revenge for him or whatever, or some variation of that or whatever. This one has a lot more intrigue going on with it. It also has various different styles of kung fu, and that was another thing too. Sometimes one movie might concentrate on a certain animal style. You might have a monkey style, like Mad Monkey Kung Fu is a example of that, or you might have a tiger style or a crane style or snake style. But this one, you have five different styles crammed into it, and hence the title, Five Deadly Venoms.
I must tell you that the clan is a danger to the public.
And so those five deadly venoms are, and this is part of Chinese folklore too, is the snake, centipede, scorpion, lizard, and the toad are the five deadly venoms. And so these characters in the movie use skills that are connected with those certain animals or insects or whatever.
They also kind of numbered it too. They were like 1 and 2 knew each other, 3
Yeah.
didn't know any of them, and 4 and 5 knew each other because
Yep.
they all wore masks during their training, so they didn't know. I guess even the master, right, didn't know their real names.
Yeah.
That's part of the mystery throughout the movie, is trying to figure out who exactly are the five venoms, right, of the Poison Clan.
And what is their motives? What is their motivation? Are they, because we don't get into a whole lot of spoiler territory here on these YouTube video episodes that we do, but the basic bare bones plot is that the master of the Poison Clan is dying. He has one student that he trusts to send on a mission. His final, for the master, it's his final thing is to send the student on a mission, and he thinks that there's at least five of his students that are using their kung fu skills for evil intents. And so he's sending in his trusted student to find out what the story is, or to take care of it, whatever the case may be, find out what's going on with the five venoms. So
I'd
and
say
that's sort of
the main plot of the movie, though, is the fact that like there is a sum of money that
yes.
basically they're all kind of going after, right? But like I never quite got where the money came from. They just said it was something from, it was kind of all the gains from what the Poison Clan had done in the past.
Yeah, I guess it was collected funds from things they had done for taking on various jobs and things. I guess the mass money they had put together for that, and I guess it is in threat of being completely taken or whatever for used for other purposes of by one of these five or some combination of them. And that's what the other his trusted student is to go in and figure out what the deal is there with these five, whether any of them can be trusted, whether none of them can be trusted, what the deal is. So that sets up the intrigue for the movie, trying to figure out who they are and what their intents are.
Yeah.
It
Also,
also says,
his sixth student has a set of skills that basically counteracts the other five, right? So
yeah,
he has
he's
to
been
find,
a
he
master
need- he
to,
needs to find at least one of them to kind of team up with, so he could try to take out the rest. Because him by himself, he can't do it. He needs the skills of one of them to kind of counteract, right?
yeah, to kind of at least one. If you can combine with one of them, then maybe you could take out the rest of the Venoms that are up to no good, you might say, or whatever. But and the master had taught him sort of the counter moves for some of the other Venoms. So each of them, like as we said before, had their own specialties related to, in some way, shape, or form, related to their, centipede, snake, toad, whatever. So there's a lot of cool that does, not only does it set up a thing for intrigue and a thriller aspect of the movie, also sets up a lot of cool fight choreography and whatnot between individual Venoms or whatever, and between the student and the other Venoms, and then him finding which one he can trust and what all that stuff, and then of course climactic battles. And so you get all that, you get pretty much everything you could want in a kung fu film, you get with this one.
I'd say if there's any criticism you could levy against it, is that maybe for good portions of the movie, there's not as much action as you would expect for this type of flick.
Yeah, that might be the trade-off in developing the plot and the intrigue, and it has to go in with the plot. Yeah, you definitely lose screen time for a lot of action scenes, because other movies, as we talked about, will trade off. They might not care so much about the plot, but they have a shit ton of fighting and choreography.
But I will say that, like you said, the trade off is, great story, great intrigue and plot twists and everything. But I think it all makes up for the lack of some of it throughout the movie with that last 10 minutes, without giving away spoilers as to what's going on. You can imagine that, as most of these type of flicks go, it leads to one big battle at the end, right? So I think in that regard, it pays off when you finally get to see some big action choreography. And I will say it's some of the best choreography you'll see in a lot of these type of movies too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was very well done. Just from the beginning, I love the intro. Like the intro sets up the Venoms. That you see them with their masks on, and each of the the narration talking about what their abilities are, and then them showing you what the abilities are with some very cool cinematography and choreography in that opening intro.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd heard of this movie before, but I'd never sat down and watched it from pillar to post. And I've definitely seen some clips from this. Like once you see it, like I've seen the guys fighting with the mask and everything like that. So I've definitely seen some clips, but I guess I just never sit down and watched it. So I mean, myself, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's one that we'll get back to some more of the Venoms, I guess you call them, because this movie sort of set up these actors who played the Venoms, and they had been acting in some other Shaw Brothers movies before this, but once this movie came out and this skyrocketed Shaw, really pushed them out, into they were definitely into America with the Grindhouses. Like the first kung fu movie we did on this podcast, which was Five Fingers of Death, is the movie that broke kung fu in America, as far as because that movie was played in the grindhouses and did gangbusters at the box office and opened the floodgates for all these other ones to come through. And then this is one that followed some few years later, and it's 1978 for this one. But those Venoms, and I have to read off the names, because I'm I'm not so good that I can just name off all five of the Venoms actors' names from memory yet. But Chang Sheng, Lu Feng, Sun Chin, Philip Kwok, Wai Pot, and Lo Mang. Now that's six, but that's the Venom mob. Now the five deadly Venoms would be those five styles we talked about. The sixth actor in here would be the main actor, the student that the master sends, and that was Chang Sheng. He played that role. So the Venom mob, as they were known, those actors would act sometimes all five in the same movie, but if not, some combination of the five would be in roles in various other Shaw Brothers movies, from acting to stunt choreography to you name it. They were just called the Venom Mob, and then became famous for that and for all the roles they played in various movies. Even if one of them was in a movie, they might call that a Venom Mob movie. So as we do more of these, I'll mention that down the road if it happens to be a quote unquote Venom Mob movie, meaning that one or more of those five actors had a major role in it.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, I really enjoyed it as a first time, sitting down and watching it from the beginning to end. So And obviously you brought it to the table. You've seen it many times, so I know you love it. But we need to get definitive ratings and grades on these things. So we do two things here on Grindhouse Gutter. We let you give out your it's really a star rating, but we don't call it a star. We classify it by whatever genre of movie that we're talking about. And this one just happens to be, Kung Fu martial arts is the genre of this one. So in this you give out shurikens. So 0 to 5 shurikens. What do you say?
Oh gosh, yeah. This is as we rate things here, they're outside the ratings of our normal, podcast episodes. Things will be elevated and whatnot. But sometimes when I'm rating these movies, I elevate them more based on the genre they're in. And when it comes to the kung fu genre, this is top notch. You'll get some that are at least equal to, but arguably, do you get any better? I mean, some, like I said, it's arguable. Some people say, yeah, this one's better, that one's better, whatever. But there's no arguing that this is top tier kung fu territory we're in here. So I can't go any lower than 5 shurikens on it.
I'm not going to argue it.
That's and like I said, that's based on the Grindhouse quota. Well, not quota, but what is it? Our criteria.
Yeah.
As I said, the criteria we judge our normal podcast episodes on, usually elevate a little bit more. And the fact that for kung fu films, I think I kind of grade them a little bit differently, but I grade them mainly based on other kung fu films.
I think it's
And what I gave Five Fingers of Death, I don't think I gave it a perfect rating because I think that it is a great movie for what it is, and it is the movie that broke kung fu over here in America into a wider market. But I think this one is better crafted. So I'm pretty sure I gave it less than 5.
Yeah, you did.
And,
I just pulled it up, and you gave that one 4 shurikens.
yeah.
The only other ones that we've done were Shogun Assassin that you gave 4.5 shurikens, and Master of the Flying Guillotine you gave that 4 shurikens. So yeah, that probably jives.
Yeah, 5 it is for this one. And if we do it on the podcast at some point down the road, we'll get deeper into the rating, and it will be, of course, adjusted for the podcast. So it'll change based on that.
And of course, on these, you also give your Grindhouse Gutter rating. Now, this is a 0 to 10 rating, where basically, like, you combine all the elements of a great Grindhouse flick, despite what genre it is, and you kind of put all those factors together and come up with a number of, like, 0 being the worst, 10 being the best. So, what do you say?
Yeah, that too. It's even though it's all kind of together, no matter the genre. Sometimes there'll be have to be a little bit of leeway, I guess. When it comes to martial arts movies, there's not going to be. I mean, you might have some that has a lot of exploitation elements or nudity or whatever in it. Not too many, Or you might have some that have some gore in it. This one doesn't have a overt gore. There's some blood and things going on. You have some that people's arms get ripped off or sliced off with swords and all this, that, and the other thing, like Shogun Assassin, for instance. That are full of that. So if we rate it based on overall, and we haven't really talked about what makes a Grindhouse movie, a Grindhouse rating for a Grindhouse movie overtly, but pretty much action choreography, whether that be an action movie, martial arts movie, or whatever. Gore, because that's a very much or violence in general is a big thing within Grindhouse movies. Nudity, whatever. I think what other criteria would be. I guess that's really the main ones when it comes to Grindhouse and exploitation films. So if you're grading it on that, this movie only has really one of those things, and that would be great action choreography and effects. When we talk about intrigue and plot, that's not really conducive to Grindhouse rating. That'll definitely feed into the regular rating, but when it comes to the Grindhouse rating, now that won't factor in. So that's got a plus that's going for it. But this one just has a lot of action and choreography, as you would expect from a martial arts movie. But it's got a lot of great choreography, because you can get some that are, and we'll get to those at some point, that have some lousy martial arts choreography. And those can be entertaining on a totally different level, sort of a, so bad it's good, or you're laughing at it type thing, or whatever. This one doesn't have that. This one has excellent choreography and excellent, fighting and whatnot. But a little bit of violence. There's a little bit of blood in here with like poking in the ears, right, and some other various blood, splatter and whatnot here. They're not on the level of Shogun Assassin or something along those lines, but I guess we'll go with 8, because I certainly can't give it a 10, a perfect score in Grindhouse rating, because it's lacking certain Grindhousey elements or whatever maybe. But when it comes to grindhouse kung fu flicks or chopsaki films, 5-star rating for or 5 shuriken rating, 8 on the grindhouse score.
So, needless to say, that we highly recommend it, and we encourage you to go check it out if you can. But we're done with 5 Deadly Venoms. We'll put that to rest for now, and I'm sure it'll come back up one point or another on Colt Corner or some other way. I'm sure it's not gone forever. But
yeah,
next month, October. So you got to go big or go home, right? And we're going pretty big on the podcast proper. So, what are we going to be doing for spooky season here on the Grindhouse Gutter next month?
I'm going to go back to, and this is going to be more in line with the drive-in aspect of, even though it's called Grindhouse Gutter, we do Grindhouse and drive-in, combine them here. And the difference between those would be sometimes some of the older movies, and this is going to be from 1965, and this is specific to the drive-ins, but some of those older movies played in drive-ins more than they did in the grindhouses because the grindhouses either weren't around when we're talking about 1950s and 60s. Yeah, there was a grindhouse district here or there, but sort of drive-ins were king when it came to cult and exploitation films in the 50s and 60s. As you get more into the 70s and 80s, grindhouses kind of took over, and then the drive-ins pretty much became mostly porn, right? For a good portion of them. Even though technically you consider that grindhouse too, but yeah, they didn't have the wide variety of horror and exploitation going on in drive-ins by the time you get to the 70s and 80s as much, except here in the South, because we didn't have as many grindhouses, but we did have drive-ins. And this one then is going to be 1965, and it's going to be Monsters Crash the Pajama Party.
So it's a very unique selection for October.
Yeah, it's like I said, specific to the drive-ins. It's a short film. It's only about maybe 30 minutes or so, if that, around that neighborhood. And it was something that would have played at the drive-ins and would have had interaction gimmicks going with it. So you would have had people, and we'll talk about this on the episode, you would have people who were dressed in monster masks running around the parking lot, kind of scaring the drive-in patrons and whatnot. So
I think it'll add to an interesting conversation that we normally don't get into, since it is a shorter movie too, right? It's only like 30 minutes, something like that.
So it would have probably played between maybe with some other Halloween things going on at the drive-in at the time, maybe 2 feature movies, and this would have maybe played between them or whatever.
So make sure you come back next month for that. So for Donnie and Will, who couldn't be with us, Professor Smoak, I'm Josh. We are from the All American Spook Show podcast. New episodes come out every Monday at 6 p.m. East. So stay here on the channel and check out everything we have to offer. Appreciate it.